Hello, Torah Exchange users. My name is Max Steinberg. This is my second or third video for this website. What I really want to talk about this week is the blessing of Ephraim and Menashe. The blessing that we use every Friday night that a father gives to their son, that they should be like Ephraim and Menashe. And the obvious question is, why Ephraim and Menashe? Why do they get the zechut of being the people that we want our kids to be like every single week on a Friday night? And there's one very popular answer that is given, and there's two other answers that aren't really given but are equally as fundamental. And before I give you the answers to this amazing question, I'd like to dedicate this class or video to my Rabbi Avi Schneider, who lives in Eretz Yisrael and is a rabbi at Yeshiva Torah Traga. Some of you may know, some of you don't know, but for those of you who don't know him, Rabbi Avi Schneider is an amazing rabbi who develops an amazing connection to all his students. And he's a rabbi that really loves and cares for every single one of his students so much that he's willing to go out of his way to even call the ones that have been out of school for 3 or 4 years and just check up on them and see how well they're doing. Rabbi Schneider really introduced me to a new way of looking at parasha classes and a new way of looking at each parasha individually and seeing what I could gain out of all of them. And not passing over a story, but really unpacking it and see what we could learn from it. And that's exactly what he showed me how to do with this week's parasha. This week's parasha has that amazing question. Why Ephraim and Menashe? Why do they have their names recited every Friday night for the blessing? And I think there are really amazing answers that we can learn from this and apply to our lives. The first answer that I'm sure a lot of people have heard is that Ephraim and Menashe beat assimilation. They beat this idea of not assimilating with the Egyptian culture. They could have easily done it. They're one of very few Jews there, if not them too and Yosef. And they kept to the Jewish culture and tradition. And that's an amazing thing that we want all of our kids to do. We want them to keep their Jewish culture that we try teaching them, to pass it on, continue the chain. It's all about tradition in Judaism. And Ephraim and Menashe really emulate this idea that you could pass on this change to the next generation, even though times may be tough, even though assimilation may be pretty popular. But Ephraim and Menashe, they beat it alone. That's one answer. And the second answer to why we choose Ephraim and Menashe to bless our kids on Friday night is because Ephraim and Menashe, they were underdogs, and they came out on top, and on top of the top. Rav Kamenetsky asks a question. He says, why didn't Yaakov learn from his mistake of favoritism? The only two grandchildren that Yaakov blesses are Yosef's sons, and the other brothers should be jealous. But Rav Kamenetsky answers. He says that nobody will be jealous of Ephraim and Menashe. They had the toughest time. They were away from their family and their grandfather and their cousins for a long time, and they weren't brought up with these Jewish surroundings that everyone else was brought up with at that time. That's why Yaakov blessed them, because they needed it. They needed to have this background that they weren't given in their adolescence. And that brings us to the next point. Ephraim and Menashe, they had a hard time. And if you were a betting man, you wouldn't bet on them to be the people that have the blessing on Friday night, because they were in an Egyptian community, growing up with Egyptians, and you don't expect much of that. But not only did they exceed expectations of becoming these tzaddikim and amazing Jews, but they became part of the tribes. They're one of the 12. Not only did they break the barrier of limitations, but they blew right by it. And that's another thing that we want to bless our kids with. That maybe we want to bless our kids with not only about them not assimilating, but we want them to exceed all the limitations and expectations the world brings to them. We want our kids to say, if the world can't tell you to fly, try to do it. Break everything. If somebody says you can't do it, I want my son to be able to say, no, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to do even more than that. There's so many people in life that are told that they can't do things. Ephraim and Menashe are probably told, you can't keep this up. How long do you think you could keep up not assimilating? And they said, we're gonna keep to this. And we're going to work really hard at this. And we're not going to assimilate. And we'll show you. People have all these aspirations that they're told no to do. And imagine a father hearing a son saying, I can't do something. A father wants to give his son everything he wants in the world. That's why, in my humble opinion, I think it's very fitting that we use Ephraim and Menashe. Because every father wants his son to exceed all expectations and limitations and become a huge thing and not take no for granted or for example. Excuse me. They don't want them to take no as a fact. They want to be able to exceed all of that and to say, you tell me no, I'm going to blow right by you. And I'm going to really shock you. Ephraim and Menashe, they shocked us all. And lastly, the third, if not one of my favorite answers to this question, is that Ephraim and Menashe, they happen to be, if not the first, but a very rare occasion in Bereshit where we see two brothers get along and not fight. Have Ishmael and Yitzchak, Yaakov and Esav. You have Cain and Hevel. And you have Yosef and the brothers. Ephraim and Menashe, they had all those opportunities to get mad at each other and fight. But they didn't. Yaakov, imagine the scene. Yaakov brings in Ephraim and Menashe to go give them a blessing. Menashe is the older one. He deserves the stronger hand. But Yaakov switches hands. And he gives Ephraim the strong hand. Yosef says to Yaakov, Father, you're making a mistake. Menashe is the older one. Yaakov says, No, I know what I'm doing. Menashe, you're a great guy. But your younger brother, Ephraim, he's even better. Now imagine that scene happened with Cain and Hevel, or with the brothers, or with Yosef and his brothers. A lot of jealousy would have stirred. But for Ephraim and Menashe, they're proud of each other, and they're happy for it. There's this idea with Ephraim and Menashe that we see for one of the first times, this idea of achdut and loving your brother for what they have and not being jealous of it. And you know, how many times do fathers have to break up arguments between their sons or their sons or sons and daughters around the fighting, and this idea that I want them to not have anything. I want to be better than them. And all a father wants is for his kids to get along and to love each other. And if the father is Hashem and the kids are us, all Hashem wants is for us to get along. And that's another idea, if not my favorite answer with Ephraim and Menashe, why we chose them. Because they got along and they loved each other. Menashe could have been mad, could have been jealous that Ephraim gets the Ber Beracha. In fact, he's happy and loves him for it and doesn't say anything. He stays strong. But Menashe is the true hero here. He shows us that we know that somebody in Am Yisrael might have more things than us, might be richer, might have a better life set out for him. But we love him and we appreciate him and we're not jealous because he's a brother. Just like Menashe and Ephraim. And that's why every Friday night, fathers give their sons a blessing to not assimilate, to not look at all these things that all the cultures do and not do them. We maintain our Jewish values. And we love them for it. We love Ephraim and Menashe for teaching us that idea. We also love them for teaching us how to love each other. And we also love them because they show us how to exceed our expectations and limitations in life. There are some things in this world that Ephraim and Menashe taught us that will stick with all of us for the rest of our lives. It's really incredible what they taught us. With that said, I would like to end with a beracha. We should all be like Ephraim and Menashe. We should be like the people who don't assimilate. We should be like the people who exceed all the limitations and expectations that were brought onto them. And we should love every single one of our brothers and sisters of Israel. Have a good week.